and welcome to Finally Fabulous with me, Kate. Finally Fabulous is a podcast that shines a light on some incredible women as they embrace what we like to call their fuck it moment to bring the joy back into their lives. Today, I'm joined by my really true, wonderful friend, Emma. Hi, Emma. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Kate. Oh, really happy to be here. I love it when women set up podcasts, so I'm more than happy to be a guest on yours, Kate.
Well, we're very privileged to have you here. The privilege is all ours. So we've just worked out that we've known each other for about 15 years. And when we first met at Added Value. And one thing I love about you is that your mantra is about living intentionally. And you've definitely lived up to that so far. At her core, Emma is an entrepreneur, continuously learning and pushing boundaries, whether that's creating communities, advocating for women, or learning how to surf.
It's true. It's so funny when somebody else reflects back to you, like your life. This is going to be a very interesting podcast for me.
So for me, I see you as a creative genius. You're a mentor, you're a podcaster, you're a coach, you're a panel host, you're a business founder. You live life to the full. And more than that, I find you an absolute joy to be with. I really treasure our friendship, and it's just an absolute privilege for me to have you as part of my tribe. You'll always be a go-to person for me. You're incredibly supportive and incredibly transparent and have a real sense of reality mixed up with all your positivity. And for me, it's just a joy to have you in my tribe.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. And I think it's, you meet some people on your journey, don't you? And I think as you get older, and there's some people that you just have a connection with, and it's like, we're not necessarily in contact every week or even every year, but I feel like whenever I see you, it is literally like I saw you last week and we have good chats.
You're right.
And it's the right energy. And that when you read out my bio as well, I'm like, I think that's somebody with undiagnosed ADHD, isn't it?
Well, maybe you and me both. Maybe that's why we're such good mates.
Well, exactly. It could be, couldn't it? It takes one to know one. It's true.
But I agree with you. It's like, there's some people that as soon as you meet, like within the first, you could be in a meeting and you look across the table and you just raise eyebrows in the same way, or you just connect on something. It just feels right.
It's true. It's an energy thing, isn't it? It is definitely an energy thing.
So there's so many things on your list, and there's so many things that we could actually talk about. But I think bring your entrepreneurial spirit is something that's really important to you, isn't it? And it really sits at the heart of everything that you believe in. Where do you think you kind of got that from? Where do you think that's kind of inspired from?
I don't know. I think that when I look back, it's always been in me, because I think that for me, I am at my most creative when I am building something from nothing. I feel like I am a creative, and my medium is entrepreneurship, if I was going to say it in a really wanky way. But for me, that really is what entrepreneurship is, because it's constantly creative problem solving. And, I was employed for a long time and no job could really hold my attention. I was always very ambitious, and I always had a bit of a 5-year plan. So I've always lived my life intentionally in that way. But I think that it wasn't until I set up my own business that I really kind of had this freedom to be myself, and also to get to know myself, because you realize when you set up your own thing that you're in your own way. So it's very revealing. I don't know if you felt like this when you set up your own thing. It strips you to your absolute core, all your insecurities, all your fears, your everything. It's like personal development on steroids, not just also learning how to generate money and build a business. It's wild.
It is wild. I mean, wild is a good word, but also I love that phrase that you said about you're in your own way. And I actually still feel like I'm doing that now. I'm still learning. I'm still massively learning on this journey. My business has been going 9 years. I've just set up this podcast. And even we're how many months into the podcast now, I'm still going, oh yeah, this about me. I'm still finding out so many things and realizing that some things are actually to do with me, and I can actually make that decision. It's amazing how long how long it takes you to realize that this is your life that you have to make the decisions for.
Yes, and also I think you need time to see your patterns. I don't know. I've always been quite a reflective person. I've got a real growth mindset. I still feel like I'm learning. I feel like the more I learn, the less I know, because you realize how much depth and, I don't know, intellectualize, I don't even know the right words, but like there's so many different layers to life, isn't there? And I think that's what I really enjoy right now, is like I am never bored. There's always something to learn. There's always a new situation that brings up something in you, or you see a new pattern, or you realize that actually you've outgrown something doesn't feel right, or you aspire to being something else. Or so I love the fact that I almost feel like a piece of clay that you can constantly evolve and shape. And I feel this great sense of, within reason, anything I want to do, I can do. Now, if I told you I was going to be an Olympic gymnast, probably not. Like, let's be real. But I think in my world, the things that I know I want to do, that I'm excited about, I feel like I can do all of those. Yeah. And not doing them is partly my own fault. It's not a total meritocracy, but I feel like there's a huge part that I have to play in whether I'm going to achieve that or not.
And that's also about seeing and grabbing the opportunities as they come along, and more than that, creating the opportunities for you to actually, get involved in and really get stuck into. And and I like the what you talked about, growing out of things, because we do tend to carry baggage, and we look back, and it could just be even stuff that's in your wardrobe. Right now, I had another guest on who was talking about emotional baggage, stuff that's sitting in your wardrobe. It's like it's creating an emotional fuzz for you that you need to get rid of. And it's things that you grow out of, like physically as well as emotionally, and put it aside and create space to then go and do the next thing.
Yeah, and I think for me, I'm a real pop psychologist, and I think it was, from having therapy at the age of like 27 was such a light bulb moment for me, because I think up until then I was just thinking how I'd been conditioned, how I'd been brought up. And so having some therapy, and even somebody, I mean, I feel like everybody's exposed to more of this stuff now, but when you and I were in our 20s, there was none of this. Like no one was telling you had to seek it out. And I just remember therapy,
I mean, even a bit frowned on, to be honest. It was
a bit frowned on, not the done thing. No. And I remember this therapist giving me this. It was just such a revelation for this therapist to tell me that the way I was thinking was not fact. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was a massive, all the stories, or the like evil Emma that exists in my head is not necessarily true. But up until the age of 27, I had been blindly being led. There's a great book, isn't there? The Monkey Mind, which talks about, that's a great read for anybody who's like, why am I so driven by my emotions? Why am I getting in my way? So when you understand psychology, you understand yourself better, then you understand people better. And I think this is such a huge element of the world that we don't understand. And that's how you're great in business. It's how you're great doing a podcast. It's how you get people to work with you, to be collaborative. It's how you build relationships. It's all this psychology.
The psychology is like understanding yourself, then understand the people and how they react and why they're reacting, and accommodating for people as well, just by understanding that, their personality traits and how they need to behave or how they need to react to something, which is not necessarily the same as you would.
Yes, exactly. And then you have to have it develops that deep empathy. But I think that's also core. But this entrepreneurship and just basically doing what the fuck I want, Kate, really.
Which we love. I love doing that too. Going to therapy at 27, I mean, that was obviously quite a younger age to be going. I mean, I've had lots of therapy as well, and I'm a strong advocate for it because I think it's brilliant. And I often just dip in and out every now and then if there's something that I just need to just check in my head. I actually wish I'd gone to therapy a lot younger as well. I think it really would have helped me set myself on the path. And I had cancer, as you know, when I was in my mid-20s, and it would have been really helpful then, I think, if I'd had it then as well. And I just kind of carried on, pushed on with, this life that I had to live. But one thing I've discovered later in life is how creative I am, and creativity, and I am coming up with ideas. And it was actually someone else, actually my dad, he said, you're an incredibly ideaful person, and your business should be all about, here comes Kate, that means we're going to have a ton of ideas that are actually going to work. It's not just there just for fluffy stuff. It's actually going to be serious stuff that's considered. So yeah, that really helped. Certain bits of therapy really helped me to plan out and realize who I am.
Yeah, I think we all need it, don't we? I do feel like it's more business as usual now to have therapy. But yeah, you're right. If you'd had it when you was younger, God, I really could have done with a therapist when I was like 14. Yeah. Oh my God.
Absolutely. And, now we're guiding our younger people, we guide them. You're a mentor, we can see how much they need guidance and help with the journey on the way. And yeah, if we'd had that, imagine if we'd had us when we were younger, oh my God.
Yeah, because you know PR and marketing. You're a comms specialist, and what you learn about PR and marketing is it's all about a PR spin, right? You can, even if you're doing a crisis, you can spin that in a positive way, and that's really what you have to do in your head. I was talking to my niece about it, and she was struggling at school, and I said, I was trying to get her to understand that confirmation bias, and maybe you're going into school and you're deciding it's horrible, and she was like, oh yeah, so really I just need to gaslight myself into school being a great place. And I was like, that wasn't quite what I meant, but yeah, you could try it.
I mean, if it works for you, then why not?
Exactly. If it makes school better, I think it's worth a try.
So we're going to go into one of your fuck it moments now, and when you talked about from permission to agency, so this whole realization of that you had an opportunity to, well, it's down to you really, just to step forward, grab hold of something. You have a right to say, you have a right to be in the conversation, and you just don't need this external permission anymore. How did that kind of come about? What drove that, do you think?
Yeah, there was a very core moment actually, and again it was around about my 20s, and maybe it was it was before I had, was it before? No, it was after I had therapy actually, and I was at a new job, and I found this female network called She Says. It still exists today. It's a global network now. I think they've got 60,000 members. A friend at work said, come along to this event tonight. And at the time, networking events you had to pay for. So there were these two women, Laura and Ali, amazing women in advertising. And they basically set up their first event, She Says event. And it was like a panel discussion, but with these, creative directors. It was so inspiring. And they were saying, look, we've just started this. We need some help. Does anybody want to help? And I was like, well, I'll help, because I want to be around these two incredible women, because why would you not? I was the only one who volunteered, apparently. So for about a year or so, I basically produced all the events. So I would organize the speakers, do all just do all the stuff. So those two could kind of rock up. And it was great because I got to hang out with them. I was networking with people. And then I was sort of in the room, and I'd shrink at the back because I felt like, well, I'm not really in advertising. And I never went to all the cool creative schools, universities, always massive imposter syndrome, really. And then one event, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? You're in this room with amazing people, and you've helped put on these events. You're a part of this team, and you have been for 12 months, and you're acting like an absolute wallflower. So I think from then I really kind of owned it, and I could really see the opportunity. And I think, people say that I know everybody, I've got this amazing network, and it really did come through She Says, because I had this lovely excuse to connect with people. And to be honest, I wasn't doing anything that people would really want to connect with me. I didn't, okay, I'll accept that I'm a nice person, but people are busy, right? They're not just gonna have coffee because they think you're a nice person. You want to. So
I would.
So yes, true. But when you're early in your career, you don't actually have a lot to give others. They have a lot to give you. So She Says became this wonderful excuse for me to meet people, and then I would just connect dots. I was like, oh, well, I spoke to so and so. You two should totally chat, and it was just lovely. And I think that was a real moment of, there's a great quote I love, which is, I can't remember the guy, and it says, the world will not invite you to the feast. You must barge in, grab it, demand a seat and take it.
Wow.
And that became my little like mantra for a good 10 years. And it was like, I think I was waiting to be invited. Yes. I was waiting to be selected, like I was on bloody X Factor or something. And I think there was a real realization of like, no one's coming to pick you out. You've got to go and create the life that you want. I think for me, I realized that quite often fear was here, like right in front of my face. And then I've realized that fear is never going to go away, right? It's designed to keep you safe and comfortable. But now fear sits behind me. That's the only way I can describe it. I've shifted its focus. It's always there, but it's behind me, and I'm doing it anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's like you can be, nagging in my ear, but we're just doing it. It's not a discussion. I think I've accepted that I won't get rid of it. I feel like a lot of people are trying to get rid of it, or they're trying to get rid of that negative voice in your head. And I'm like, it's always going to be there, because that's just human conditioning. I'm just not going to listen to it. I'm going to turn the volume down, but it's always going to be there. But I'm not going to allow it to be noisy front of center.
I love that. I love the way that you've described that. I think that's really helpful, actually, in lots of ways, because we do still have, fear is, you can turn that into power, because it does turn on the adrenaline. It can help you to like really push through something that's scary, like genuinely is scary, or something that, is fearful and painful or emotionally bad. But it does create that adrenaline to help you push through as well, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's, we talk a lot about anxiety now, but I think anxiety is a big bucket. Like I have had an anxiety disorder, and, going through that and being fascinated by psychology allowed me to get over that. But there's different scales, and most of the time I just feel nervous. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I'm nervous because I haven't done it before and I'm a bit scared, but I wouldn't call it anxiety. Yeah. Like I know what anxiety is. So I'm very careful how I use that word.
And then from this working through She Says and realizing that you had a right to be in the room, and very much a right to be in the room and to talk out loud. You talked to me before about this part of your mantra about working smarter, not harder. Yeah, which is something that I know is really important to you, and treating life like an experiment, just like test and learn all the time, which I know sings to your entrepreneurial spirit as well. But smarter, not harder. Talk to us a bit about that.
Well, that comes from my dear dad, who's no longer with us. I might get a bit emotional. I don't know. I never thought about that. And to me, that's about strategy, right? Yeah. That's about thinking about the end goal. And I think that changed the way I think about everything. Even today, it's always like, to what end? Like, what's the end goal? What does success look like? And I think over years, I've just got better and better and better at that. So strategy is like my default. Whatever I'm doing, I'm always thinking like, to what end?
Yeah, I think work smarter, not harder is a really great piece of, like a takeaway really that we can take from this, which is always think about the strategy and where you're going. I don't always do that, to be honest. I was like, let's just set up a podcast and see what happens with that. And now I'm like, oh, where is this going? And now I have a plan. But, there will be things, and don't let it constrain you, because get on and do stuff, right? Don't worry about the end plan all the time.
Sometimes the end is just experiment, because I think like you, like I am a creative, and, I'm doing a little bit in terms of like understanding the fundamentals of like applied creativity. And it talks about divergent thinking and convergent thinking. And when I look at my, life, like I was working up until the age of 37. And then I finally had the guts to set up my own business, because that leap from corporate to your own thing is huge. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I felt like I was about to jump off the biggest cliff. And then when I did it, I realized that it was just like a curve. Yes. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you felt the same thing. It feels like this enormous thing. And then once you've done it, you're like, oh, that was totally fine, and I'm fine. Yeah. So but I think once I did that, I was sort of unleashed. Like I was totally free to do whatever I wanted to do. And I realized that, a bit like you with the podcast, I did loads of stuff. If you look in my background, like I did this startup, I did this thing, radio show, like a future of work collective, a trade mission to New York, like really just dicking around. And it was great. But like you, I then had to get to a point where you go, after you've done that fun, you have to go, actually, I need to work smarter. But I feel like that was like my divergent thinking era, and now I'm in my convergent convergent era.
That's a good way to describe it, I think. And then another thing we did touch on earlier actually is creativity being a form of therapy, and it's it's really therapeutic way to kind of tap into your creative side when in tough times. And I think for I would like you to talk about that some more, and how can that manifest. And obviously you've had a really tough time along the way with a bad breakup and your dad. There's some really tough time there.
Yeah, well, I think when I set up my business in 2013, and just as I did that, I set it up on the 1st of January 2013 because I wanted to start it the exact day that I wanted my limited company to start. And in that year, like I started that year with my dad just being diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer. So that was not great, incurable, like not fun. And then I split up from my long-term partner, someone I've been in a relationship for 6 years, but it was very much like, it was a very unhealthy breakup in terms of I just got blindsided, and it was like, it was over. It was awful, but I think because I just set up my business as well, that was actually an amazing distraction. And I just like, I was just free. I had all this time on my hands because, I didn't have a relationship. I just worked. Like I worked a lot. But really, I think that it was the freedom, because it was the freedom from everything. My dad was obviously a different thing, but he was sort of stable by the end of that year. And you kind of knew what we were dealing with that. And that was just, makes you just a lot more grateful when, someone's time is limited. So, but yeah, so I think, when I look back, there's a kind of a madness there.
Yeah.
Because I was so sad and I was really trying to work things through, but it was also the greatest time of my life. Like, if I look at my Instagram and all the adventures that I was on, and that was really my mantra, was just like, I just want to have work adventures. I just want work to be fun. And I did the most amazing things. I met the most amazing people. I really did have a really bloody great time.
Good for you, and good for you to have the strength whilst you were going through all of that. It was really emotional and tough times, to pull that from the inside of you out and go, right, fuck it, I'm just going to go and plow everything into this. And then the reframing this failure as test and learn process. So searching, you talked already about searching for data rather than success. And can you talk to us about, your thinking around that?
I don't know. I just was through this phase. I was like, I'll just give it a try. What's the worst that's going to happen? I think I'm always the sort of person that's like, I plan for the worst and then I hope for the best. So I always put my plan B in. Like, I'm not totally reckless and wild. I'm probably maybe a bit too safe, but I'm like, okay, what's the worst that's going to happen? Financial worries is obviously something. So, you can put a plan in place. Any other fear is shame, humiliation, embarrassment. You remember that people don't really care. Like, like I'm not Beyonce. Like, you get in your own head in your own world, and it's such a significant thing to you. And when I, you look around what other people are doing, and I'm like, I don't really, I'm not really bothered whether she shut her business down or whether that thing didn't fail, or actually, oh yeah, that person stopped posting about that thing and you realize that it shut down. And it's like,
oh, well.
I don't know. Sometimes you just have to realize that you're just not that important. And I think, I just was like, everything was an experiment and everything was an adventure. And the outcome was the learning, not the outcome itself.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Like, because the learning then creates a foundation for the next thing.
I just had this wonderful sense of freedom. And what I've realized is freedom is such a core value of mine now. Like, it's so important. It infuses everything that I do, every decision that I make.
One of the things, Emma, we were going to talk about here was about your choice to be child-free.
I'm happy to talk about it. And I use the term child-free because I think it's very different. There's terms now like child-free and childless, because there's some people who have wanted kids and haven't been able to have them. And that's a very different journey. I'm child-free by choice. I've never wanted kids. I've known since the age of 7, spent a long time in turmoil because the whole world tells you that you'll change your mind. The whole world tells you that there's not a role for you unless you activate your womb. And but now I'm over the other side, and I do feel like I see more like groups, and like with social media now you can find your tribe, but I felt very lost for a long time around that decision, because you know, you're a black sheep in a culture and everybody else is zigging, and you've got a very strong urge to zag and you don't really know why. And also it's the one decision in life that you can't change your mind on. Anything else, I can buy a house, I can sell a house, I can marry someone, I can divorce them. You can't. I mean, I know some people do, but it's not the thing to do. And it's certainly, you know, with my values, is not something that I would do is, you know, put a child up for adoption. You know, that's not an option. So, you know, for me, it was like, I can't go back on this decision. But also it's such a life transforming decision. You're like, what does my life look like if I don't? What am I missing out on? Like, you know, So it's been a journey. I don't know if young people growing up now feel like the landscape's more diverse, but I think you and I grew up with, you know, very classic tropes.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? And I think it's really, it's quite hard, you know, to push really against those. I think even, you know, there's assumptions as well about when you're child free. I think the assumption is that you don't like kids, that you're, you know, and I, for a long while, if I said that I was child free, I'd always follow it up with, but I love kids. Like I had to justify the position, and I don't now, but you get that, you know, people have said, oh, you don't understand family. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? I've got a family. Do you know what I mean? Yes, but this is the kind of stupidity that, you know, people have. And, you know, it's just stereotypes, isn't it? It's assumptions. I think also sometimes people, like, they're pissed off that I made a decision. And, you know, if they're having a bad day with their kids and then they hear I'm child free, like, that's, you know, that's not a good conversation. And also I think sometimes people don't know what to do with me. Do you know what I mean? Because also what I've done is I've rejected their life choice. And I think some people see it as a rejection of what they've chosen to do. So it sits uncomfortably with them, when it's not. Like, I just think women who've had babies, like my friends who've had, but I'm just like, I just think you're absolute goddess, you know, like you've created this human being, you know, like, I just think it's the most wonderful, amazing things. It's just, it's not for me.
The other thing we talked earlier about freedom being the biggest luxury, and we did talk about your decision to close your agency, which, you know, for us when we talked before was like another massive fuck it for you, you know, a whole new start again. You know, you already went through a load of stuff and through corporate working and set up your business. And you talked before, when we were chatting before, about how you were just losing yourself to actually working harder and not smarter, and you just weren't enjoying it so much. So that was a crucial decision in your life, wasn't it, to do that?
Yeah, it was. I think, you know, I'd had an agency for 10 years. I was very much like, I'd always wanted to have my own business. Setting up a business around something I knew really well, which was a branding agency, just made sense, because there's so much to learn with the business. I don't know how people do a new business on a new topic area, because there's so much to learn. So it was almost like I didn't have to learn how to deliver the creative work. I just had to learn how to run the business. And I think for me, you know, I was really wanted to get the business to 1 million turnover, because for me, I really wanted to be great at business. And I felt like I needed to push the business to get the skills to really, you know, improve my business acumen. So I was on that journey. And obviously, you know, everybody, when you run an agency and all the groups, they're waving the carrot at the end, which is the, sell, and there'll be a nice earn out at the end. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to put all my effort into this business, and then I'm going to get a pot of gold at the end. Now what I've learned is, when I look back at the business, the money that you can generate and have a small business with the acumen, I probably should just kept that business small, to be honest, and focused on getting the money out year on year rather than working towards the pot of gold. Because what actually happened was I just kept investing my money into the business. And then as the business grew, it kind of became harder and harder. Add into that making it through a pandemic, and post-pandemic was just an absolute nightmare. And then, we felt like we were recovering, and then we went into a recession. And then that year was looking really good for us. Like, we looked at our numbers and we were probably going to get very close to 1 million that year. And I was really excited about it. We had a lovely spread of clients, great creds deck. We'd just done a rename and a rebrand. I brought some investors on who had a percentage, and they were like my board. And my dad had been given 12 months to live. So I was like, right, okay, I'm really ambitious around the business, but at some point I'm going to drop out of the business. And, when somebody's terminally ill with cancer, you just do not know what's going to happen. So for 12 months, you're like, this could go really badly. And so, but we had this sort of massive gap in our pipeline, and I was like, oh shit, this is the wrong time of year. Like, because you're going into July, August,
really quiet.
Total summer. And I looked, and I had exactly 6 weeks runway cash. Like, I've got 6 employees at this point. And I was like, it's okay. And I sent a long WhatsApp to my board. It's like, it's okay. I'm going to pick the pipeline up. We're going to do this, and this. But in the meantime, I had these conversations with clients. Like, one client that I thought we could ride the summer out was going to give us about 200 grand's worth of work, disappeared out of the business. And our whole team were like, we're not doing that work. So that was like my last lifeline. And I genuinely, Kate, I've never been so stressed in my life. And it was actually my partner who said to me, well, you could just stop, and I'd never contemplated it because I was so goal focused. But I realized that if I had 2 choices basically, and I was like, I'm deep in grief. My team are going to have the summer off because we've got no work on, so they're going to have a lovely time, and I'm going to be working like an absolute beast. And then I looked at the end, like, if we get to the end of the year and we hit our goal, I'm probably going to have to take on more debt. And I looked at what the business was worth, and I was looking at like an M&A, and I was just like, that's not exciting. That's not interesting. And I did feel like the business was taking more and more of me, especially after the pandemic. And I was just like, do you know what? I just feel like the universe has just held up the curtain and gone, you can just exit stage left here if you like, Emma. And that's basically what I did. So thought about it on the Friday. I sat with the decision, and then Monday I told all the team, and shut the business down.
So the right thing for you to do. And I'm so grateful that your partner, thank goodness for people in our tribe, right, who just go, have you thought about, have you thought about this thing, maybe completely different?
I'd kind of lost the intrinsic motivation to, like, the carrot at the end just didn't feel that much fun anymore. It just felt like a slog to get there. But I'm tenacious. I was like, well, I can do it. And that's what I was going to do, and we're going to achieve it. And I've got the right clients and the right people. But it was literally like the universe was going, just stop. I mean, if I'd have stopped in January, we had 50 grand in the bank. And I had a moment there where I was like, I'll stop now. Like, we were about to hire somebody. I could have stopped then and had 50K in the bank, and I didn't. I was like, no, I've just found this brilliant person, la la la.
Well, and thank goodness you did, because now you're set up your inside out community, and that's just, I mean, you're doing the thing. One of the things you absolutely love most is like connecting people and bringing them together, and this like new energy of really highlighting and shining that light on fantastic in-house creative teams, which hasn't been done before.
I would say I'm in my Ikigai era. Do you know about Ikigai, which is like what you love? I think it is. It's 4 things overlapping, isn't it? I've got to remember them. I think it's what you love to do, what people want, what you're good at, and what the world will pay for. I think it's those 4 things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do fewer things and do them well. So instead of being really busy and extending myself width way, which was fun for a time, it's not actually sustainable. And I realize it doesn't move you forward. I'm big into flywheels now. And how do you create something that's a flywheel that builds itself and builds its own momentum? So I'm really enjoying applying my business knowledge to a completely different model, but still a world that I know, but perhaps, a different setup, but a setup that's much more suited to me. And I think because I did all that wild, crazy, creative grief therapy thing, I know what I can do and what I'm good at. And you're right, Inside Out is an amalgamation of all of that. So I really feel like daily, yes, there's days I have too much work to do, but it's not stressful. I can work from anywhere. There's more and more I can do, but that's only because I want to do it, not because I have to do it or because and I don't have that stress of, oh God, we're doing this client project. Is the client going to pull the budget or swerve the project? It's not, and I think having cut my teeth on what is one of the hardest business models in one of the hardest industries, like it's harder than ever to run an agency now at the hardest time. I'm just, this is fun. This is fun. But also I think I have the confidence now where I'm like, well, if it doesn't work, I'll just create something else. Like, fuck it. Exactly. Yes. That's exactly it. And it's so freeing because then you can care less and you don't hold on to things so tightly, and it doesn't become this like, oh, it's got to work. I'm like, I know how to create value. I know how to make money. I know what my skill set is.
You have a fantastic reputation in the industry and you're highly regarded by thousands, hundreds, and probably nearly thousands of in-house creative teams and creative people, even if they're not in creative teams in-house. And you're highly regarded that. And I think there's this need for you to carry on doing it. People want it to happen. They want to come together as a community and they want to connect and they want to collaborate.
I also think that what's nice about Inside Out is that, it's independent. Like I have an agenda for it to be a sustainable business because lots we can do, but quite often you find these initiatives, and there are a couple of others out there, but they're backed onto consultancies. They're kind of a marketing play, which is, it's fine. There's a place for that. But I think what's different about Inside Out is that I am really focused on my members and in-house creative leaders and what do they want. So I literally spend my time just talking to in-house creative leaders, and then I'm looking at the industry and what's going on. And I think because I understand it and I understand business, I think all the things have come together. I've worked in agencies, I've worked in-house, I've run my own business. I've done lots of advising at King's and Imperial and their entrepreneurial institutes, so I really understand business and brand and creativity. So it is literally all the pieces of the jigsaw now play into what I'm doing. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun.
So we need to come up with some little takeaways for everyone. So what it means is, what are some little things that we can give people of tips of inspiration that they can just think about from the conversation we've had, and something that have kind of popped up during our conversation. Probably the biggest overarching thing for me is live life intentionally, and just believe that you have a place to live and choose in your own life and anywhere else.
Yes. But that comes from knowing yourself. So I would say, if I'm going to start with top tips, spend some time getting to know yourself. Like, spend some time, like, be a pop psychologist, because it just makes the world an easier place because you understand you understand everybody around you. So, and when you're in business, like, that's how you do good business, is really understanding people on a deeper level. So I would definitely, would be a huge starting point for me. I think second would be like, kind of don't challenge what you hear in your head and go, is that really true?
One of the questions I wanted to ask you at the end is, if there is somebody who's probably got listening to this is thinking, actually, I'm quite entrepreneurial. I realize that this is like ringing true for me, and they just need that extra bit of conviction to embrace their fuck it moment and just do it. What would you say to them?
I would say that there's no amount of prep because I tried it. I did a lot of prep before I set up my business, a lot of podcasts, a lot of reading, a lot of planning in a book, what was my proposition, la, 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 la. Nothing prepares you until you're actually doing it. So the sooner you start, the better. I waited till I was 37. Like, don't wait till you're 37. Like, start earlier, like start in your 20s, and I really admire anybody who's set up a business in their 20s because you learn so much. And yes, you haven't perhaps had the refinement that I had. I got a lot of free leadership courses and stuff like that. But ultimately, nothing prepares you for doing your own thing until you do your own thing. So I would say, less prep, more action.
I could not agree more.
Just go for
because it. I also wish I'd set my own business up 10 years before. I set mine up through circumstances, the things like that happened to me that made me go, oh, there's a gap. And I can fill the gap with this different thing.
Yeah.
But I've really encouraged Alice to start young with her own business and go for it. And it's scary. And there's, shit's scary actually. But you just thrive on that. You thrive on it. And you just go, okay, so that didn't work. So what am I going to do next? And all the things we've talked about today, having the freedom as well. So less pondering, more action. Just do it. Get on with it.
Yes. Less talk, more action.
Last thing we like to finish on is what brings you joy today. So what are the little things or some of the big things that you just love doing? For me, I love going for walks on a sunshine day with a girlfriend, maybe having a coffee or something. This can be anything. It could be my cat welcoming me when I come into the kitchen every morning.
Well, mine is learning to surf. So I discovered, I started learning to surf about 2 years ago. Mainly my partner's a surfer. So I was a surf widow for a long time. And then we have a house in Biarritz. So we're there a lot. And then he bought me a board and I just started messing around in the waves. And on my Instagram, I've got this awful picture, like clueless, getting wiped out by the waves. But I'm, slowly but surely, I'm improving, and it's just lovely to do something that's a sport, that's exercise, but doesn't feel like exercise. And now when he's on his surf trips, I can kind of mess around in the baby waves, and it's just really nice to be doing something, a new hobby. Because I think the assumption is that once you get to 50, that's it, you're on the wind down, and I feel like I'm
just starting.
Game's starting. So surfing brings me a lot of joy.
Well, on that, I could not have teed that up better for me to say to you. So you are finally fabulous to us, and
thank you. Do I get a certificate?
You get a certificate, yeah. You definitely get that. And it's just been absolutely joyful to talk to you today, Emma. I knew it was going to be, and it definitely has been. And you've been privileged to hear your story.
It's been really lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate, and good luck with the podcast.